I still remember the night everything went sideways like it's etched into my skin. It was a July evening in the middle of downtown Harbor City, hot enough to make the sidewalks sweat, the air thick with pretzels, car exhaust, and the buzz of neon signs. I'd been living under another name for almost 2 years, not a day off, not a night without looking over my shoulder just to get close to one man. To everyone else, I was Lena Torres, a small-time courier with a desperation written in my eyes. But behind that mask, I was Special Agent Dana Mercer of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, 1 inch from putting away a cartel boss who'd cost lives on both sides of the border. Victor Reyes, the man could blend in like smoke. A baseball cap pulled low, a faded polo gray, slacks that could have come off any clearance rack. But I'd studied him so long, I could pick him out of a crowd with my eyes closed. The slight limp from an old gunfight, the way his eyes never stopped scanning. That night, he finally stepped into the open heading toward a meeting we'd been planning to intercept for months. My handler was 2 blocks north with the takedown team. All I had to do was shadow Reyes until he got there. Easy, right? I told myself to breathe, keep my heart steady. But even before he moved, I felt it, that prickle on the back of your neck when the hunt shifts. He looked up at a giant screen, but his eyes flicked to a shop window and caught my reflection. That was all it took. He bolted. And just like that, my careful little world went up in smoke. Target's running east on 12th. I hissed into the mic, clipped under my collar as I tore after him. The crowd was a nightmare, a wall of tourists and food carts and people dressed like superheroes taking selfies. Reyes was slick weaving between strollers, knocking over a coffee stand without even looking back. I vaulted a row of folding chairs, muttering apologies, pushing harder. He was right there, 10 more feet. And then a voice like a drill sergeant cut across the street. "Hey, you stop right there." He was built like a linebacker wearing an HPD uniform with the sleeves tight around his arms. Officer Brian Kane. He saw me chasing a middle-aged man and thought he'd just spotted a mugger. "Hands where I can see him," he barked. "He's the suspect. Get out of my way," I shouted. But Kane's face went red like a bull seeing a flag. He stepped right into my path, squared up his shoulders. "Stop now or you're going down," he yelled. Reyes slipped past him, glancing back with a little smirk that would haunt me for weeks. I tried to sidestep. Kane reached for Reyes' shirt. I was so close I could smell the sweat on the man's back. But Kane swung before I even saw it coming. A hard, ugly punch that cracked across my jaw, snapped my head sideways, and dropped me into a pile of tourist junk. For a second, the world tilted and the city went silent, except for the ringing in my ears. I tasted blood. I saw miniature statues of the harbor goddess rolling across the pavement. And through that haze, Victor Reyes disappeared into the crowd like a magician's last trick. 2 years of undercover work gone in the time it takes a fist to travel 6 inches. Kane loomed over me, puffing up, hands still bald. "Shoulda listened, lady," he grunted, reaching for his cuffs. "Stay down." I pushed myself up on one elbow, rage shaking me harder than the pain. "You idiot." I spat, a thin ribbon of red running from my lip. "That's enough out of you," he snapped. "You have the right to remain federal agent," I screamed, every nerve in my body screaming against protocol. My whole life undercover was supposed to stay secret, but right there in the most crowded intersection of the city, I tore open my jacket and shoved my badge at him. "Special Agent Dana Mercer, FBI. And you just let Victor Reyes walk away." It was like someone hit pause. Kane froze his hand halfway to his radio. The crowd gasped, 100 cell phone cameras blinking at us. The hero cop had just become the villain. Black SUVs swerved to a stop at the curb, agents pouring out in dark suits and tactical vests. My handler, Mason, was at my side in a heartbeat. "Dana, what the hell happened?" His eyes flicked to my split lip, then to the stunned officer standing over me. "He happened," I said. My voice was ice. Mason's face tightened, that quiet, lethal calm only a Fed can do. "Officer Kane," he said softly, "surrender your weapon and badge right now." Kane blinked, confused. Two HPD officers ran up trying to figure out what was going on, and Mason cut them off cold. Your officer assaulted a federal agent and aided the escape of an international narcotics kingpin. This is now a federal matter. Secure your man and keep your mouth shut. You could see the color drain from Kane's face as he realized what he'd done. He unholstered his sidearm with shaking hands and handed it to his partner. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. That night ended with me sitting under fluorescent lights, my jaw throbbing, recounting the whole mess to two grim-faced supervisors. They laid out the damage in numbers and names. Rhea's gone. Meeting with the Russians gone. Informant probably dead. Millions of dollars and years of work shredded because one cop saw what he wanted to see and swung. And yet, as they grilled me, what burned hottest wasn't their anger. It was a ghost. 5 years earlier, another operation, another market. Reyes using a little girl selling flowers as a human shield. I'd hesitated then, and a good man named Mateo had died in my arms. I'd built my entire cover around avenging that moment, closing the loop. And now Reyes had smiled at me the same way, walked away again. The video hit the internet before I even made it home. The punch heard around the world, they called it. Talk shows, op-eds, hashtags, protests. For some, Kane was a scapegoat, a cop hung out to dry for a federal screw-up. For others, he was a perfect symbol of everything broken about policing: shoot or punch first, ask questions later. His wife gave a tearful press conference about the father of her two kids. The union dug up his commendations of the times he had saved lives. Meanwhile, activists dug up his two prior force complaints. And me, I sat in my apartment with an ice pack and watched strangers debate my life like it was a football game. I wasn't Dana Mercer anymore, agent in the field. I was a meme, a symbol, a talking point. The Bureau threw the book at Kane. Internal trial, guilty on all counts. Fired. The cameras caught him walking out of the precinct with a cardboard box, his face gray and hollow. A man hollowed out by one terrible decision. Watching it, I felt no victory. Reyes was still out there, probably on a yacht, laughing. A week later, they called me back. "You're cleared," Deputy Director Vaughn said, his tone softer now. "But your face is everywhere. You can't go back under as Dana Mercer. You're burned." He slid a file across his desk, a new passport, a new driver's license. "Meet Alice Foster," he said, consultant from Chicago. Smart, quiet, perfect cover for the next phase. I stared at the new identity. A part of me thought it was punishment, a desk job, or worse. But then Vaughn leaned forward. "You know Reyes. You know how his people think. We're not wasting that. We're sending you to Antwerp. He'll need a new route into Europe. Be there when he shows up." For the first time in weeks, a spark lit in my chest. Maybe I'd failed as Dana Mercer, but as Alice Foster, I could still finish what I started. Then on my last night in Harbor City, a padded envelope arrived at my hotel. No return address, postmark from the Caymans. Inside was a cheap little lapel pin shaped like a marigold. My stomach dropped. That was the flower the girl had been selling in Bogota 5 years earlier. A detail only 3 people on Earth knew: the girl, me, and Victor Reyes. No note, no threat, just that pin. But the message was as loud as a gunshot in a quiet room. "I see you, I remember you." I held that pin looking out over the city lights, and I felt something change. This wasn't about the Bureau anymore, or about proving anything to Vaughn or Mason. This was about Mateo, about a promise I'd made to myself on a sun-baked street long ago. Reyes thought he was reminding me of my weakness, but all he did was reignite the fire. The world thinks justice is neat. A bad cop fired a headline, closed the system grinding on. But it's messier than that. Kane lost his badge, his pension, his reputation, and still the real villain walks free. Some folks call that accountability. Me, I call it unfinished business. Now I'm Alice Foster, living out of a suitcase, waiting for a man who believes he's untouchable. Waiting, watching, breathing slow. The hunt isn't over. It's only gotten personal. And that's where I'll leave you tonight. You've heard my story. The punch, the fallout, the new life. But what do you think, was Officer Kane's firing real justice, or just a scapegoat to cover a larger failure? Have you ever seen someone judged instantly wrongly because of how things looked on the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me where you are watching from, because the conversation about justice isn't over either, and your voice might be the one that tips the scales.